Good morning, everyone. This is the Young Women's Entrepreneurship Program. We're in class number 7, and today we're going to be talking about financing and or bootstrapping your business, just different ways that you can go about financing. And we're going to start out with number 1. A lot of people don't think about all the different options that are available in order to finance your business operations, but it's really important to sit down and think of all the different ways that you could access funding that don't necessarily come from the traditional styles of sources of funding, such as a bank. Of course, it is definitely one wonderful source of funding, but it doesn't always have to be the way that that you do approach getting funding and financing for your business. So the number 1 option would be to sell some assets. And in order to determine whether or not selling assets is right for you, or if you're ready to sell those assets, you can look around and you can decide, do you have anything that you could sell? Anything at all? Chairs, art, things that are sitting around that you just don't want anymore. And small assets can be sold on eBay or Kijiji, pawn shops, lawn sales, auctions. If you're trying to liquidate a large asset like a boat or a car, you can always hire a professional for help. You want to talk to an accountant just so that you know the depreciation of the asset, and you could talk to a realtor if it's property or a financial advisor. Depending on the asset that you have, you'll also need to know if it'll impact your taxes. A lot of times when we sell something, you may face some penalties or fees for accessing certain financial assets. Like you might have a capital gain or a capital loss, and if you're going into something like savings bonds or RRSPs, there are ways that that will come back at you. For example, with savings bonds, if you cash them in too early, then you don't make any money off of that savings bond. You just get the basic face value of the bond. You don't get any of the accumulated interest. Normally, you'd be able to reclaim the full accumulated value of the interest at the anniversary date of the bond, if it's 2, 3, 4 year, even there are some 1-year bonds as well. If you're talking about RRSPs, when you take money out of your RRSP, you're taxed on it as it's pulled out because initially you weren't taxed, and then you only have a certain amount of time, I believe it is 3 to 5 years depending on how old you are, and to put the money back into your RRSP. So you have to make decisions on whether that's something that you're wanting to sell and wanting to do. For some people, selling your RRSPs is the best option because you are able to actually pay it back, which is great. Number 2, in terms of a financing option, is trade credit. What that is like the buy now, pay later kind of deal. I'm not talking about easy home, like purchasing a television and then paying it off in some way or basically leasing the item. What this is if you're in a situation where you are buying bulk amounts of materials or equipment or supplies, you can actually create agreements and relationships where you don't have to pay cash on the spot. It may be difficult to convince some suppliers to offer you trade credit because they don't know who you are and you're very small, and they may require you to pay up front for every order until you've established that you can pay the bills on time, right? A lot of times you have to prove it before they'll believe you that you're going to be able to pay, but you can also put up some collateral. You can offer them credit card information. They can run a credit check and make sure that there's enough space on your card to be able to pay for the order, but then just not charge you for it until you've actually sold the product. That sometimes can work really well. And just because this is a situation where they may or may not give you trade credit, it doesn't mean they can't try to negotiate the trade credit with suppliers. Try to speak directly with the decision maker because they'll be making the specific arrangements, and they are the ones who allow you to make arrangements for paying over time. The option often costs more than paying cash up front, as they normally charge additional fees for any trade credit situation. But if you're interested in a possible trade credit with a supplier, all you have to do is ask. The worst that'll happen is they'll say no, and the best that can happen is you can get your business funded, meaning you'll be able to pay. You won't have to be putting out any money to pay for what you're trying to use and sell in your business. is trade credit right for you? There's different things that you can look at to determine whether or not trade credit is right for you or not. Trade credit is great for established businesses. It's much harder for a new startup, but it can be done. If you don't pay the money back on time, you could be sued, and it could impact your credit rating in the future. Trade credit is only right if you have a solid business strategy that ensures that the money can be paid back. Or let's say that you know you have a lump sum of money sitting in an account that you could be using to pay for this stock, but you'd rather have the cash flow available to you for your day-to-day operations. It's always a good idea, even in life, when you're dealing with credit, that you always know you have the money before you put it onto your credit card so that you can, in theory, pay it off right away if you need to, so that you don't end up in a bad credit situation. And so as long as you have a solid business strategy that makes sure that you can pay back that money, or you do have a lump sum, it could be a good option for you. And also, too, part of the solid business strategy means that you already have customers that are willing to buy, and not just a list of potential leads. Let's say you've got contracts for service for a whole bunch of stuff, and you know that you're going to be using these products in order to accomplish the service that you're trying to offer. That would be a perfect example of where the trade credit would be great, because within, net 30 days or net 60 days, whenever you're going to be providing that service, you're going to be receiving your payment from your customer, which then can turn right around and pay your supplier. If you want to try a trade credit arrangement, if you want to try and negotiate a trade credit agreement, you want to first look at the company's website and review their policies. Larger companies will probably have something clearly outlined and may not be open to negotiating with an unknown business, but smaller businesses may be more open to negotiation with new business, provided that you've got a solid business plan. And you want to ask for a small order, pay them back on time, and then try and negotiate for a larger amount when you've built a relationship with the company. Financing option number 3, angel investors. This is a really, really buzzy term right now, angel investors. You'll even see sometimes ads in the paper for business competitions where angel investors will sit as you pitch your business, and then they will give you money if they like your business option the best. Angel investors are successful business people who are willing to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in your business in return for a piece of the action. They're looking for a great return on their investment. They're not afraid to stick their noses into your business if you feel that you're not going in the right direction. If you look at NBC's Shark Tank or CBC's Dragon's Den, those are really, really good examples of angel investing. Contestants give your pitch, and then you try to sell the investors the big idea. But the bottom line is profitability, not passion. And you're the one who has to be passionate about your business, not your angel investor. They're really honestly just looking to make a profit. That's not to say that angel investing is bad. It's not. The process just has different parameters than other types of funding. And some specialize in tech and restaurant or manufacturing. They're extremely knowledgeable in their industries and can give you a really good idea and guidance with regards to product development and marketing and sales and so on. Often they already have the infrastructure in place to be able to test your idea. If they already have a bang-on marketing department that they are working with, they can run your product or service through that marketing flow and then see it come out on the other side and see if it works. The really good example of that is if anybody does watch Dragon's Den, if you look at the differences between, say, Kevin O'Leary, who's a businessman, and he's got his business channels, but he's more focused on buying the business, making money, or taking, cuts of the business, not really getting too involved in it, whereas you have Arlene, who owns her own huge branding and marketing company, and she's much more hands-on with the company and wants to help you build it and make it as big as you can. She's just much more involved in the whole process. And that's something to really consider, because in a lot of ways you would have much more control. I'm totally doing quotes in the air and you can't see me, in a situation where you're dealing with Kevin O'Leary, because either he would buy it outright from you, license your business, and you wouldn't be doing anything, but at least you'd have cash in hand, or he will leave you alone to do what you need to do. He'll give you the money. He'll have huge expectations, but he won't be looking over your shoulder. Whereas with Arlene, she, from the like the first moment that you start working with her, she would be on your back, have her team, everything, you know, it almost becomes a company of hers or a subsidiary of her company. And for different people, they need different support agreements, right, and support arrangements. And if that's, you know, you're either a Kevin or an Arlene, and you're wanting that kind of situation out of an angel investor. And so if you do have the opportunity to pitch to an angel investor and you get to choose between angel investors, make sure you know who is the Kevin and who is the Arlene. It's a good process for those who don't mind giving up partial control of their business in return for financial backing. Some of us who are entrepreneurs, that would drive them crazy, and so we will scrape and scavenge to find different ways to raise the funding. For some people, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's exactly what they need and what keeps them motivated, because they're actually, you know, accountable to someone else, and that's part of what motivates them to get up in the morning. Is angel investing right for you? If you want 100% control, just like what I was just talking about, angel investing is not right for you. And plus, it's not for small, micro, or solo businesses. If you're a registered massage therapist and you're trying to open a small clinic, it's not really a good option for you. If you have a certain widget that you're trying to take out to the world, it's a great option. Partnering with the right investor may be the answer if you're comfortable receiving guidance along the way. It's like a mentor with money, which can be kind of wonderful for some people. And if you're ready to get started with angel investing, there's a few resources that you can check out. There's Angel Capital Association directory. There's mostly the US and Canada. Obviously, that's where we're dealing with Canada. There's Angel List, there's Angel's Den, there's all sorts of different things. If you type in Angel Investor Canada, that's what will come up in a Google search, a whole list of things. Financing option 4, borrowing from friends and family. That is not something that I want to get into. Not a very good idea typically in terms of a business practice unless you have a written document that clearly describes how you're going to be paying that person back, or if you're offering them some kind of financial investment in your company so that when your company succeeds you will be paying them back. It's a really quick way to make family and friend rifts. You know, friends especially. Family normally have the ability to forgive as long as you're not asking for that much money. They want to see you succeed. Friends, it's a really dicey situation to borrow money from friends unless they're helping you and they're working with you and they believe in what you're doing and they know that they might hit a loss. Unless your friend's an angel investor and they've got a ton of money and they'll be able to influence what's going on. So just be really careful when you're borrowing from friends and family. Financing option 6 is credit cards. Another thing that I wouldn't suggest. It's nice to have a credit card like I was talking about before if you're trying to focus and figure out a trade agreement with a supplier to give you a longer time to pay it back. If you can show that your credit card is there and that you could cover the funds via your own personal credit, it's a great thing to have applied for and have your credit card available in terms of just an extra way to pay for things. But otherwise, you don't want to rack up huge credit card debt in order to pay for your business operations. It is the highest amount of interest that you will ever pay on a loan. And it's not a loan. It's really you just giving money to the credit card company. The limits are like 18%, which is absolutely ridiculous. No one else charges that much, and it's a dangerous way to get yourself really far into debt. Credit cards, the purpose of credit cards is to pay. It's the convenience that they have. You can pay for them and then you should be paying them off immediately, like literally buying something in a store, going home and making a bank transfer right away into your credit card so that you're not having to pay that amount. Financing option 7, microloans. Microbusiness lending is a relatively new phenomenon, and there's thousands of programs worldwide. Microfinancing began in the 70s when social entrepreneurs began lending money on a large scale to the working poor. And today, microfinance programs serve anyone who's unable to get a loan through a mainstream bank. One of the people who offer really great microloans is the government, businesses like the Futures, like Ontario Futures places offer microloans, and different foundations. Foundations will offer specifically women's microloans, and what I'll be doing is near the end of the program, I'll be giving you a huge list of all of the microloans that are available so that you can go out and access them if that's something you're interested in. Financing option 8, bank loans. Bank loans are the same as microloans, but there's normally a way higher interest rate. But bank loans, small business bank loans, are readily available as long as you follow the procedures that they have. Typically, like if you're going with the Royal Bank, Scotiabank, etc., they'll have an online business plan software that you need to fill out, and then if you meet their criteria, you get the small business loan. Typically, small business loans are only up to $5,000 until you prove that you're actually, rolling and things are going well and you're able to pay back the loan. Once you pay back that first $5,000, then you can roll into the bigger business amounts, which you can get up to. You can get as much as you want. Banks will give as much as you need, as long as you're proving to them that it's working well. Amounts of $100,000, $200,000, especially for leasehold equipment, things like that. It's easy to get as long as you're proving to them that you're actually able to pay it back. Financing option 9 is social lending. That's something that's pretty new as well. And social lending is an internet-based funding source where individuals can apply for loans from other individuals. It's a peer-to-peer system instead of traditional consumer-to-business stuff, like bank to person. Sorry about that. There are many different social lending sites, and it each has its own unique process. Like other types of funding options, the investor is looking to make a profit. And so it would be me, if I had an extra $2,000, I would post myself on this peer lending site and say, okay, who has a business idea? Tell me about it, and I want to be paid 12% on my loan, 12% on my investment. Or, it's basically like an angel investor, but on an individual peer-to-peer basis. And typically, in the peer-to-peer situations, you're not dealing with people who are willing to invest millions in your company. You're looking at smaller amounts. There's a few non-profit lending sites like Kiva. There's Canadian ones, there's American ones, and they connect entrepreneurs from around the world with socially conscious investors who lend for philanthropic reasons. So say you're starting a social enterprise and you're looking for money. You make your pitch on sites like Kiva, and people from around the world might fund your social enterprise. Things, programming for children, programming for women, programming for health in the community, things like that. All these different initiatives do really, really well on sites like Kiva. And the main thing when approaching social lending, like every other funding option, is to do your research up front. But social lending is a great option for those who have limited funding choices. Financing option 10, bootstrapping. Bootstrapping is an old phase that means improving your situation by your own efforts and pulling it up by the bootstraps. It's part DIY and part strategy. It's finding non-traditional ways to structure your business and look for alternative ways to fund your business. So really, situations of trade credit, situations of pulling money from here and there and selling stuff and not, eating beans don't eat beans out of a can, but, eating chickpeas and rice and, rice and peas for months, complete protein, with some steamed broccoli, and that's about all you eat so that you can fund the rest of your life. That is called bootstrapping, just picking it up by the bootstraps and working as hard as you can until things are successful. Other than that, the most important thing to remember about funding options is that if you want to do something, you can make it happen. And what you need to do is research ways to be able to find the money that you need. I can help you with those resources. If you're really, really stuck, just let me know. My audio connection was just lost, but what I was saying is I can help you with funding. We offer funding for women between the ages of 18 and 29, as long as you do a pitch competition, and on the other end, we'll hopefully be able to at least start you off on the right foot. And there are many other programs like ours that work the same way. So now we're going to be moving into operating your business under the law. In business in general, it's incredibly important to make sure that you're meeting the legal requirements of your industry. The most valuable resource that we have here in Canada to make sure that we're doing the right thing is canadabusiness.ca. It's a wonderful resource to help guide you through all the legalities of owning your own business. And what we're going to talk about today are some of the steps that you can take to make sure your business is following the proper legal means to set yourself up and make everything okay. So the first step would be to register your business. And as a business owner, it's important to make sure from day one that you have all the required permits and licenses in place before you open your doors. And without them, you could be facing some pretty hefty fines. So a business license signifies that you're permitted to operate in your area, while a permit document shows proof of compliance with certain laws, okay? So permits and licenses that are required for your company will not only vary by industry, but also by city or province, and you may require a municipal or provincial license to operate your business, and it really varies. Most businesses need a license of some sort to operate. Licensing fees are required, so be sure to budget for this, and especially signs and like when you're posting a sign out at the end of your driveway, you have to pay for there's a license fee for that. And if you're going to put in some jurisdictions, you put a picture on your car or something on your license plate, and company vehicles, you are required to pay a licensing fee for that as well. The second thing, business number. A business number is something that you'll need for HST and GST, payroll, corporate income tax, import-export, or other registered, like all of the other things that you can do if you're a registered charity, or excise tax, excise duty, all of the different things that are that are required. And what this does is it creates a business account with the Canadian Revenue Agency. Currently, if you have a business that is making under $30,000 a year, you don't particularly need a business number because you won't have to apply for the HST GST, but it's not a lot of money to get one, and it's always a good idea to accumulate as many legal things as possible to make sure that you are operating within the law. So I would suggest that everybody get a business number because it's very cancelable. So let's talk about some rules and regulations. Some of the most important regulations you'll need to follow will be local bylaws that may affect your business operations. Examples include smoking or alarm system bylaws. The pain about bylaws, or the good thing, depending on who you're talking to, bylaws may be updated and renewed often, so you have to keep up to date with this information. If you belong to an industry association, that's a really, really great way to get the emails sent to you directly when you're part of the association for whatever service you offer. They typically keep right on the top of what new bylaws are around. For details about the regulations of your area, you can contact your provincial, town, or rural municipal offices. They have all of that information there. Your Chamber of Commerce is also a great way to find out what rules and regulations exist in your area. An example of some licenses, there can be municipal business licenses, video rental licenses, food service establishment licenses, tobacco retailer licenses, garage licenses, gasoline retailer license, gas plant propane license, petroleum storage system license, service station license, and music license. Music license is something that is so incredibly important. A lot of people don't realize that if you are playing music at an event of any kind, it doesn't matter what it is, if you are publicly playing music, you need to pay SOCAN for that. If you're having a school dance, you need to pay. If you're having, not a party in your house, that's different, but if you're having an event at a hall and there is music playing, you need to be paying for that. If you've hired a DJ, you need to make sure that that DJ has paid for the license of the music. It's very, very important to make sure that it is covered and paid for. Permits, there's building permits, vendor permits, compressed air boiler permits, refrigerants permits. I don't know if you guys all heard the story about the little boy. I can't remember where it was, if it was in Vancouver or whoever it was here in Ontario, I can't remember, but he was actually, the municipality approached him and said that he needed to get a vendor permit to sell lemonade at the end of his driveway. And it was a big holy hoopla, and everybody was yelling and screaming about it, saying that it was going way overboard with this permit and regulation thing. But you know, you get a wacky municipality or who takes issue with whatever you're selling, whether it be the eggs at the end of your street in a little, you know, if you build a nice little booth to sell eggs or pumpkins or honey or whatever it is you want to be selling, and it's at the end of your driveway, if the municipality or the town wants to, they can come to you and tell you that you need a permit to sell that. Even if you're selling bikes on the end of the driveway and you have them there for more than just a day in a garage sale situation, sometimes you'll end up in a situation where they'll require a vendor permit. Regulations. There's zoning bylaws. Like, you can't just, on your residential street, it's not okay to just put up a sign and start your business there. It'll mean more traffic flow coming to your place of business, etc. And most municipalities and towns don't want that happening. There's packaging and labeling regulations. They're very, very important, and please contact me if you're having specific questioning, or if you have any specific questions regarding packaging and labeling. I have a ton of information about that, and so I can send it off to you. Tobacco regulations, fire safety standards or regulations, health regulations and requirements. Health regulations are a big deal when it comes to food preparation. If you're making something in your kitchen, you know, the food police might come down and grab you if, you know, if you're not making sure that you're doing everything in a very, very sanitized kitchen, etc., following all of their rules. And the worst thing to have happen would be to somebody to eat something of yours or consume something of yours, have something go wrong, and then have the food police come back at you about that. There's regulations about the weights and measures of products. There's regulations about petroleum products, hazardous waste and air quality. Retail sales tax regulations, like where you sell it or where you can put your retail sales tax. Like, what do you put taxes on? What do you not put taxes on? And then also the regulations around the use of personal information. That's a big one these days, and it's something really, really important to think about. If you are having a raffle, you're at a trade show, there's a raffle, and everybody's putting their names into a big bin, what you do with the information about them is a big deal. If they find out that you're sharing it with your sister who has a business in something else, and they get phone calls from her or any kind of advertising activity, they can you know, come back at you and say that you've illegally used their personal information, which isn't too cool. Other regulations that must be followed include land use, zoning, building regulations. Be sure that your company complies with zoning and building regulations before committing to any land use or renting. There's a lot of land, for example, up here in Muskoka, that looks like it should be rural use. Like, I can put cows, I can put chickens, I can put whatever I want on it. But they have different distinctions between rural, farming, woodlot, all of those kind of things. And it's really, really important if you're wanting to set up a little farm that you're not choosing land that's not permitted on, and after you've bought it and fallen in love with it, because that can be a really big nightmare for somebody who's spent a lot of money on property thinking that it's going to be, you know, their dream, and just to be told that they're actually not allowed to do what they need to be doing on their property. And zoning is actually often a prerequisite to obtaining a license to be able to do something. So it's actually good because it's a, you know, it's something that will stop you in your tracks before if you apply for your license too early. But it's also just really, really important that you make sure you're applying or you're complying with the zoning requirements. So in terms of, let me see. In terms of additional taxes, which is always fun. Taxes. You want to watch for any additional taxes that you might have to pay for your business, including a business tax for companies operating in their own facilities. There's different taxes that municipalities have. The Government of Canada provides some excellent guides to starting specific types of business, all sorts of ones like complementary healthcare, alternative healthcare, beauty salons, barbershops, bed and breakfasts, consulting out of your home. or a business, convenience store, childcare, personal care for seniors, restaurants, and has all of the required rules and regulations on their webpage. And once again, that's canadabusiness.ca. I'm telling you, it's a really, really awesome resource. The other thing that you cannot forget about is insurance. You can't forget to obtain insurance. It is so important, especially for entrepreneurs. There's a few basic types of insurance that every business needs to have, and these include fire insurance. If you have a space, even in your residence that is your office, you need to have fire insurance. You need to be able to cover any damage caused by fire. You should also look at coverage for storms, smoke damage, floods, or any other types of disasters, because you will have to financially replace even your laptop. If it goes down and that is your main business, you're toast. And so you need to make sure that when you're looking for commercial liability insurance or property insurance for wherever you're running your business, that you've covered fire insurance and disaster insurance. There's theft insurance and burglary protection. No matter what type of business it is that you run, you need to cover yourself from theft. It is separate from fire. It is separate from regular home insurance. And one of the things that they don't tell you until you have to make a claim for insurance is there are certain things that the insurance companies like to know about beforehand. For example, if you're a graphic designer and you go out and you spend $6,000 on a brand new Apple computer, the ones with the huge screen and they're just awesome, and you've put all this software into it. Now you could always get AppleCare, and who knows, you might be able to just get a new one. But because that's insurance as well. I do both. And let's just say you have a big, huge, beautiful window that shows your graphic design studio, and the right guy comes along and steals your computer. If you don't tell your insurance company that you have this $6,000 new computer on site, they may not believe you that you've purchased it. Even if you have a receipt for it, they have no way to prove that you have that within your working environment. So a really, really good option is wherever you work, you put your Apple, your brand new spanking Apple there, you take a photo of it, you send it to your insurance company, and you make sure that it is insured specifically. You might even have to pay a premium for insuring that, but it's always nice to know that that's the case before it's too late and something's happened to it, and then you have to pay the full price of replacing the item. The other thing is liability insurance. It should be obtained to cover your business for any type of injury sustained by anyone while on your premises. If you don't have anyone visiting you at your premises, well, then you don't have to worry about that as much. It's super, super important to create a dialogue with an insurance provider. It's kind of hard because they can sometimes be trying to sell you on everything under the sun. But if you have a clear list of what you need covered, which is basically everything that you do, and you go in with your list and you say, this is what I want covered and not a penny more. They have a much better idea of what you want. And you can even say to them, and if you sell me a penny more, I'll walk out and go to somebody else. You don't need to be hostile, but if you're feeling that they're trying to sell you the moon, you just want to make sure, though, that every single thing that's on your list is covered. I don't think, the only thing that isn't covered, like the ability to cover, are like acts of God, like tornadoes and stuff, and I don't really think that, you can try to be covered with those, but it's harder when you're just an individual to be covered under those kind of things. So why would you need business insurance? You need to protect your assets from potential risk, okay? And then we'll talk about some different types of insurance too. Like there's life insurance. And, life insurance, whether some people believe in life insurance, some people don't. But if you are the sole income provider for your family, it might be a really great idea to look into protecting your family in the event that something happens to you. Especially if you're in a case of like sole proprietorship, because you are personally liable for all of your debts. So let's say you've agreed to a trade arrangement with a supplier, and you have $40,000 worth of stock sitting in your warehouse, and you die. and the company comes back to your family and says, okay, pay up. And they don't want the product back, but you need to pay up. And so your family will be in the hole for that amount. Even if you're just covering with your life insurance the amount that covers the cost of your business, that's enough, and it's a wise decision to make. Disability insurance, it provides you with an income for a specified period of time if you're not able to work due to injury or illness. Let's think about this. If you are supporting your entire life with your business, and especially if it's a service business, and you go down, how's the money going to come in? How are you going to pay the bills? How are you going to pay for your housing even, right? It comes down to Maslow's basic hierarchy of needs. And so sometimes it's a good idea to pay for disability insurance to cover that. There is partnership insurance or buy-sell insurance. If your partner passes away, for example, partnership insurance will allow you to purchase the shares and continue running the business. You know, wouldn't it suck to have your partner die and you not be able to afford to buy the partner out from his family, his or her family? That would just be very frustrating. Critical illness insurance, you get a lump sum benefit if you're diagnosed with a critical illness. It's really, really good. Key person insurance, if you rely on certain key people to help run your business. If those people, not if they die, but something happens to them, you know, it will help you out with that. There's so many different kinds. There's insurance for business and earnings. You can protect your assets and earnings in the event of a disaster or emergency. There's property insurance, content insurance, which not a lot of people have for apartments that they rent, but you need to have content insurance. Business interruption insurance. You know, if you need to temporarily shut down all of your business operations due to a fire or other peril, the business interruption insurance will cover your loss in earnings until the end of that. Vehicle insurance, you'll have to make sure that you've covered that in terms of your vehicle, because let's just say you're carrying that $6,000 Apple in your car and something happens to it. You need to have that insurance. There's also liability insurance for if you make mistakes. So you, your employee, your equipment, or your suppliers could be the cause of mistakes that ultimately end up hurting your customers, your employees, or other people who are involved in your business. And to protect your business from being sued, you should consider the types of insurance that limit your liability. So you can do general liability, which covers injury to clients or employers on your premises, product liability, which provides protection in the event that your products are defective or cause serious harm to those using them. Professional liability insurance provides protection if you're sued by a client for errors, omissions, or what they see as negligence when you're performing your professional services. Like super, super important to make sure that you have the professional liability insurance, because wouldn't that be terrible if they came back and sued you, even though it doesn't have to be intentional. You don't have to intentionally be negligent. You could just do something wrong and then they come back and sue you. There is also, there's accounts receivable insurance. And having a client that doesn't pay can leave you in a difficult situation. You have to pay your employees and your suppliers, and you're essentially stuck covering the cost of goods without the corresponding revenue. And so the accounts receivable insurance, also known as credit insurance, can help protect you from this risk when a client goes bankrupt or refuses to pay. Super important. You might not need it right away. Let's say that all of your sales basically are under a certain amount that you know that you could comfortably cover. Then that's fine. But you can see that as your sales or as your revenue starts to increase and as your sales force starts to increase, it's much more important to be looking at things like accounts receivable insurance, because everybody's counting on you and you don't want to let anybody down. The risks are often greater with accounts receivable stuff when you're dealing with export markets. The government offers export insurance to cover a variety of risks, including accounts receivable insurance. So if you're going to be importing a vast amount of stuff from other countries, then it might be a really good idea to get accounts receivable insurance. And I've got the website. Once again, they talk about it at canadabusiness.ca, but the EDC offers accounts receivable insurance. and it sure insures up to 90% of your export business against a number of commercial risks, which is super, super awesome that they have that. Part of why they offer that insurance is to encourage people to work in exports, because if they didn't offer that kind of insurance, there wouldn't be a lot of, well, there's incentive, but not as much incentive for people to get into the industry. You want to make sure that you're getting the right insurance for your business, and making sure that you have the correct business insurance can provide you with the peace of mind that everybody needs. And to discuss your business insurance options, you want to contact an insurance representative to find or develop a plan that's right for you and your business. You also may want to contact your local chamber of commerce or industry association, as some organizations offer members great rates on their business insurance, and they know already exactly what you need and what you're looking for in terms of insurance, because it's part of your industry association. Unfortunately, some people are doing unique enough things with their small business or self-employment initiatives that there aren't industry associations. But if you're lucky enough to have an association, then it's a really, really good idea to contact them, because they'll know exactly what your insurance needs are. Other people that you can talk to is the Insurance Bureau of Canada. They're wonderful, just to make sure that you do have the correct insurance, and the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, which is the listing for all of the chambers of commerce. And if you shoot them off an email and say, I have no idea who I should be talking to, what my chambers are, they can give you all of the community listings that you require. If you're from the Muskoka area, I have all that information available, so just say, hey Annie, I need the list, and I'll shoot it right off to you. The other thing that is very important in terms of your business, when you are a larger organization, or if you choose to incorporate, it's essential that you have this. But even a smaller business, even if it's just you, a sole proprietor, it's a very good idea to have a code of ethics and to publicize that and put it right on your website. You can call it my personal motto. You can say my what I believe, anything like that. But you want to make sure that you're communicating the purpose, the values, and objectives of the organization. And it usually, what your code of ethics usually does is it proposes a specific, like all the specific principles that you follow and the rules of conduct toward each different situation, such as conflict. And a key objective of a code is to provide guidance on expected behavior, as well as rationale for that behavior. So you can always refer back to the code as you're dealing with a situation. A code also provides a way for a company to measure and monitor performance designed to achieve the objectives. And it also instills value. So when you're thinking about your business and what kind of code of ethics it should have, the purpose is to explain to your clients under all circumstances, or customers, under all circumstances, how and what they will expect in terms of your service provision, and then in terms of how they will be treated if there is some kind of a conflict that arises. Nonprofits and small to medium-sized businesses often don't have the same resources or the same societal or regulator expectations that led to an actual code requirement. But the advantages of having a code, even in the smaller businesses, I mean, codes benefit organizations of any size. And an organization without a code of conduct should still have a way of communicating ethical values to their employees and their other key stakeholders. If you're talking to suppliers or different manufacturers, you want to make sure that you're getting your code of conduct across. One of the codes that I live by in my practice in terms of my doula work and education is that I follow the World Health Organization code that is specifically against the marketing of breast milk substitutes i.e. formula, and I will not market on behalf of a formula company. I get a lot of people coming up to me and sending me emails and sending me samples to try and get me to offer those things to my clients, and under no circumstances will I offer anything that is a breast milk substitute. Do I deal with families every day that give their kids formula? Of course I do, but that's in terms of promotion. The World Health Organization has been working really hard to make sure that care providers do not market breast milk substitutes, because it's just something that's not, they don't suggest it in the first place in terms of the health of babies, and so it's something that should not be marketed. Doesn't mean it can't be used, but it shouldn't be marketed. And so, for example, in terms of a simple code of conduct, I don't deal with retailers, manufacturers, suppliers, anything like that who advertise or who sell, actually, breast milk substitutes, which is a choice that I made years ago, and most of the people in my profession follow the same code of conduct. So today, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to be able to work on between now and Wednesday, but all of the exercises that you need to do are in the printouts that I will email to you right after the class. And so I want you to go through and determine how many licenses, regulations, all that kind of stuff, and what company documents you need to procure in order to run your business legally. It's a big process. It might take you longer than just Wednesday, but using CanadaBusiness.ca and your industry associations, I want you to let me know what works and what doesn't work, and what documents you need, and what further information you might need that I can get for you. Okay? The second thing I'd like you to do is I'd like you to create a code of ethics. Even if you don't use it, I want you to sit and think about the things that are going to guide your business practices, because it's incredibly important that you think about these things and know what you're wanting to offer people. And so that is a definite, important thing to sit down and think about. The other thing is that this week, on Wednesday, I'm going to be sending you a whole bunch of information. It's going to be the next few chapters of our reading, and it's all about accounting. What I want you to do in the time slot that we would normally have our webinar is I want you to read the accounting documentation and the information that I send you. I want you to work through all of the exercises. There's only one or two in terms of accounting, just so that you can know where you stand in terms of all of that information. It's going to cover things like balance sheets, income statements, all that fun stuff, and the purpose of why it's really important. And then when we're not going to have a webinar, because I just want you to be reading, and then when we get back together again next Monday, we'll be able to talk about any problems that you've had, and I'll move forward on the curriculum, but please send me any questions in the meantime, and I'll address them first thing in our webinar on Monday. Okay? So expect a huge email from me full of all sorts of stuff. I want you to work really hard on all of the information that you have to compile. At any point, please send me any questions or comments that you have. And until then, I wish you the absolute best and good luck with your work, and please, honestly, let me know if you need any help at all. So take care, and I will see you next Monday. Thanks.